Alright, so in the last video I described how, for example, when we're multiplying two numbers which have powers attached to them, like 2 squared, and then the same number with another power attached to it, such as 2 cubed, then we have that base raised to the power of the sum of these two powers. It's 2 to the power, in this case, of 2 plus 3, which equals 2 to the power of 5. And I described how we sometimes use this fact for the purposes of simplifying some difficult multiplications. Now let's just take a look and see what happens when we have a number. Let's suppose 2 cubed. And we want to raise that to another power. We want to square it. Well, remember, that's just the square of this number here. Now, what is this number here? Well, the number inside these parentheses is 2 cubed, which is 2 times 2 times 2. 3 occurrences of 2, and we want to square it. So let's put those inside parentheses so we can just keep them to one side. Square it, which is to say multiply it by itself. So let's put another set. We've got 3 2's inside there. 1, 2, 3. Now, it doesn't matter about these parentheses. They don't do anything. So what do we have? That is equal to 2 to what power? Well, we've got how many occurrences of 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 to the power of 6. 2 cubed all squared is equal to 2 to the power of 3 times 2. And for any numbers x, y, and z, if we have x to the power of y, all raised to the power of z, then we have x raised to the power of y times z. Alright, I've just changed colors here, and now I want to introduce some terminology. Suppose we have 2 to the power of 2, and we know that that is 2 times 2, and the multiplication in this case is easy. It is 4. Now, as a matter of terminology, we can say this. We can say, we've already dealt with this, 2 squared, am I writing again? Bad. Is 4. And we can also say this, the square root of 4 is 2. Now what does that mean when we talk of square root? If 2 is the square root of 4, it simply means that 2 squared is equal to 4. Now what's the square root on this basis? What's the square root of 9? Let's put it down here. What is the, and I'm going to abbreviate square to just SQ, square root of 9. Well, it's the number multiplied by itself, x times x, that equals 9. What number multiplied by itself equals 9? Well, 3 does. 3 times 3 equals 9. So, what is the square root of 9? Let me just change color yet again. 3 is the square, and again I'll abbreviate it, root of 9. And that simply means that 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Okay, let's just take a new sheet of paper. And just as we talk of square roots, so we can talk of cube roots. We might ask, what is the cube root of 8? Well, remember what a number cubed is. It's that number multiplied by itself and then all multiplied by itself yet again. 3 occurrences of x. So the cube root of 8 is the number which multiplied by itself and then multiplied by itself again is equal to 8. And what satisfies x here? What number can we substitute for x such as all of this works out true? Well, of course, we can substitute the number 2. 2 satisfies this equation, which is to say that we can substitute 2 for x and the equation will come out true. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 equals 8. So, what is the cube root of 8? 2 is the cube root of 8. 2 is the cube root of 8. Now again, let's just go back to a matter of symbolism and terminology. If we say that 2 is the cube root of 8, we write cube root like this. We sometimes write this like a curious, something like a division sign, but it's got a little check mark at the bottom. 8 cube. That means the cube root. That's simply as a way of writing the cube root of 8 is equal to 2. And the square root of 4 is equal to 2. How do we write the square root of 4? Well, we write that root symbol, and we put 4 inside it, and we put 2 outside it, and the square root of 4 is 2. And what's this? That's the square root of 9. What number multiplied by itself equals 9? Well, 3 does. So that's just a matter of terminology and symbolism, the way that we write down cube roots and square roots. And indeed, we might have fifth roots. We might, for example, write the fifth root of, what number should we put in here? Say 32. What is the fifth root of 32? Well, it's the number x such that x multiplied by itself. I'll just put in small little time signs here to avoid confusion with the x, hopefully. I'm trying to do squiggly x's. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more, 5 equals 32. What number satisfies that equation? That is to say, what number can we put in here instead of the x that makes this true? Well, let's try 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And that's supposed to be a 2 sign. Does that equal 32? Well, let's just check it out. 2 times 2 is what? 4. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2. What is 4 times 4 lots of 4? Or 2 lots of 4 are 8 times 2 is 16. So we have 16 times 2, and that does indeed equal 32. And so, let me just change color. What do we have again? Fifth root of 32 is 2. Okay, now just one more thing before I move on, and I want to return to, for example, these two items up here. I'm just going to use these as examples. Now, in the first case, I've suggested that the square root of 4 is 2, and in the second case I've suggested that the square root of 9 is 3, and the basis on which I do that, yet again, is that 2 times 2 equals 4, and 3 times 3 two occurrences of the 3, the 2 being up here, equals 9. But let's ask ourselves whether there might not be numbers other than 2, which multiplied by itself is equal to 4. Let's just think. Is there another number besides 2 which multiplied by itself is equal to 4? It doesn't really seem so, does it? 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really seem so. But let me just give you a hint. What about negative 2? Multiplied by negative 2. What does that equal? Well, I don't know whether you've done multiplication of negative numbers, but in that case the minuses cancel one another out, and it is true that minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 equals positive 4. So what we should really say up here is that the square root, there's the square of 4, is equal to 2, or it might be equal to negative 2. We just don't know, because both 2 and negative 2, when multiplied by themselves, give 4. And the same or similar is true in the case of 9. The square root of 9 is in fact equal to 3 or minus 3. Now when we write this 3 or minus 3, sometimes we'll write, again just a matter of terminology, plus with a minus sign underneath it, plus or minus 3. But just for the sake of completeness, let me point out that where we have an even number of roots, square root, not a cube root of course, but you can work that out for yourself, but a square root, then the answer may be plus or it might be a negative number.